Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. In this video, we are going to discuss about which processor smartphone should you buy in 2020. If we see here, there are different processors from different companies such as Qualcomm, Exynos from Samsung, MediaTek, Kirin from Huawei HiSilicon, and Apple chipset. So if we see here, these are the different types of chipsets which we can see in the market right now. So for further understanding, I categorized these processors into two types, which are mid-range smartphone processors and flagship smartphone processors. I further categorized these mid-range smartphone processors into two types, which are gaming and casual usage purposes. So if we come to mid-range gaming type processors, there are processors MediaTek Helio G90T, Samsung Exynos 9611, Kirin 810 chipset, and Qualcomm Snapdragon 730G chipset. These processors are considered better for gaming because of their higher clock speeds and overall management. In general, gaming processors are defined because of their clock speeds. If the clock speed is high, then the processor will be able to manage the overall performance and even the gaming performance without any overheating issues. So if we come to casual usage purposes, there are processors such as Exynos 9611, Qualcomm Snapdragon 712, MediaTek Helio P70, Kirin 710 processors. Here you can observe that Samsung Exynos 9611 processor is considered as both gaming and casual type processor because it handles day-to-day performances as well as gaming performance almost equally. These chipsets are considered as daily casual usage chipsets because of their a little lower clock speeds, so that there will be a little heating issues while playing games and under heavy usages. So in general, we know that the performance of the phones can be calculated by Geekbench scores. The processor Helio G90T phone Redmi Note 8 Pro is having higher GPU scores compared to the processor 712 Snapdragon, which is used in Realme 5 Pro, and then to the smartphone Samsung Galaxy M30s, which is using Exynos 9611 processor. So even by this graph, we can say that the gaming performance of Helio G90T processor is far more better than the Snapdragon 712 and the Exynos 9611 processor. On single core and multi-core performances, Snapdragon 712 is performing well compared to the Exynos 9611, and then Helio G90T's performance is far more better than Snapdragon 712 processor in compared to the gaming performance. Now if we compare it with the Apple's A10 Fusion chip, which is fairly a mid-range processor chip from Apple, the Geekbench scores of Helio G90T and Apple A10 Fusion chip are here. You can observe that A10 Fusion chip is performing better compared to the Helio G90T processor, but in the multi-score performance, Helio G90T processor is fairly fast because of the GPU speeds. And if we consider here, Apple's A10 Fusion chip is compared with Snapdragon 712 chip. In single core, its performance is low, but in multi-core, Snapdragon 712 performance is fairly fast. So for any smartphone, GPU is as important as CPU. Both are considered as a heart and brain for the smartphone. So if we see here, Helio G90T processor is using ARM based Mali G76 MP4 GPU, which is fairly fast as any other smartphone GPUs in the price range. Exynos 9611 is using ARM based G72 MP3. Snapdragon 712 is using Adreno 616. Kirin 810 is using ARM based Mali G52 MP6. And Apple mid-tier A10 Fusion Bionic chip is using Power VR GT7600. So even if we see here, these processors are fairly fast enough to compete with each other for the given price ranges. But if we consider Adreno chipsets, these are manufactured by Qualcomm Snapdragon. So we can say that the overall performance of this Adreno Snapdragon phones will be far more better than any other companies. So if we compare the Adreno GPU chipsets, these Adreno GPU chipsets are mostly used with Snapdragon because the Qualcomm company is making both Adreno GPUs and Snapdragon chipsets for their phones. So overall optimization of the Snapdragon chipsets is fairly better compared to any other chipset phone and any other GPUs in the market. So if we come to Apple chipsets now, the most recent chipsets from Apple are A11, A12, A13 Bionic chips. These can be seen in iPhone X, iPhone XR and iPhone 11. If we talk about the optimization of the Apple solely manufactures its own GPU and CPUs and most of the other parts of their phone. So we can see that the Geekbench scores and every other scores of Apple phones are far more better than any other smartphones in the market. Since the Apple company is making their own CPUs, GPUs and their own parts, assembling together in their own company, the Apple phones are faster compared to any other phones. Now we can come to the flagship tier processors. The flagship tier processors here are MediaTek Dimensity 1000, Kirin 990, A13 Bionic chip, Samsung Exynos 990 and Qualcomm Snapdragon 865. These are the flagship tier processors which we can see in the market in 2020. If we compare the Geekbench scores of the processor Exynos 990 and Snapdragon 865, you can observe that the Snapdragon 865 is far more better in CPU, GPU and other performances. So we can say that comparing to 865 Snapdragon with Exynos 990, Snapdragon 865 is powerful. And if we compare the Geekbench scores of A13 Bionic chip and Snapdragon 865, the processing speeds and Geekbench scores of A13 Bionic chip is far better than the Snapdragon 865 chip. This is because, as I said earlier, Apple take care of their own GPU, CPUs and every other parts assembled in their phone. So Apple is fairly fast compared to any other phones. And even if we compare the Snapdragon 865 processor with the Kirin 990 processor here, the Snapdragon 865 processor is fast compared to the Kirin 990 in single core and multi-core processors. This is one of the picture I took from the website techcenchurion.com. In this we can see that the Apple A13 Bionic chip is ranked more compared to any other smartphones. Then comes the Snapdragon 865 phone and then the Exynos 990. So we can say that if not Apple in smartphones, Snapdragon 865 is one of the best processor compared to any other processors. So if we can come to the final conclusion that if you are going to purchase a mid-range gaming smartphone, then it would be preferable to purchase the smartphone with Helio G90T processor. It's almost as powerful as 730G and 720G processor, but we can observe through the Geekbench scores that Helio G90T processor is far better compared to any other. If you want a casual daily usage phone without any lags or anything, you can go for Snapdragon 712 processor or Kirin 710 or Exynos 9611 and even for Helio P70 processor. If you are considering to buy a flagship smartphone, then if you are good on budget, you can go for A13 Bionic chip, which is by Apple. Unless I would recommend to go for Qualcomm Snapdragon 865 5G processor, which is comparatively fast than any other smartphone processor in the flagship tier. And then you can go on for Exynos 990 and from Samsung. Thanks for watching. Like, share, comment and don't forget to hit the bell icon to get notified for the latest upcoming videos.